to ask you a question. How many of you here are Emirati? Raise your hand, please. As you can see, most of us are not. We are what you call third culture kids. A third culture kid is someone who was born or spent their childhood years from 0 to 17 in a country that neither they nor their parents are from. What does third culture refer to? The first culture refers to your parents' culture, where they immigrated from. The second culture refers to your host country, the place where you're currently living in. And the third culture is a fusion of both, where a child adopts traits from each to create his or her own cultural identity. In the UAE, it is hard not to find third culture kids, as we make up majority of the population. I myself am a third culture kid. My mom immigrated here from Morocco, and my dad immigrated here from Lebanon, and I've grown up here my entire life. Now, as a child, I've always felt frustrated when I would go back home to see my family. I never felt that I could relate to or communicate to them on the level that I wanted, especially when they would discuss their shared experiences growing up back home. Now, I'm sure many of you will relate to me when I say that I was jealous of how my cousins got to grow up next to each other, live in my country's culture all the time, and most importantly, they didn't have to travel to see each other. Now, this is just one of the many struggles we face as third culture kids. We may feel disconnected from our relatives, we may not be able to identify ourselves with one country only, and we may feel like a puzzle piece that can't seem to find our place. However, I want to shift the perspective on third culture kids into a positive light, to recognize the unique advantages that only we gain. Think about all the people you've met in your lifetime. Most likely, they all came from a range of different countries and cultures. Now go back and remember a time where you learned about someone's culture. Whether you learned about their customs, tried food from one of their cuisines, or even participated in one of their traditions. For us, this is a common experience. However, in most countries where locals dominate, it is deemed unusual to be able to learn about so many cultures so frequently. Therefore, it is a privilege for us to have this much knowledge at our fingertips, and we need to know how it benefits us. Firstly, we gain a deeper global understanding, a very valuable skill when trying to navigate today's increasingly global society, especially when we are aiming for inclusivity. Additionally, being a third culture kid gives us a heightened sense of adaptability and curiosity. Constantly being exposed to different environments fosters in us a natural inclination to learn, thrive, and adapt in new settings. This skill becomes a driving force in our personal and professional life, allowing us to approach challenges with an open mind and a willingness to embrace change. Now, for a deeper understanding, I want to tell you a story. When my mom first moved to the UAE, she hadn't known much English at all. However, after working her first job, communicating with the customers, the staff, and going through her own resources, she eventually became fluent at English. Now, if she could improve herself to this capacity in only a few years, imagine how us third culture kids could improve ourselves after spending most of our lives in a diverse environment. A great testament to the success of third culture kids is Elon Musk. Originally South African, he moved to Canada during his teenage years and later to the United States. Now, it's very easy for us to look at this as a hardship, that he had to leave his school, leave his friends, leave his culture behind. However, we need to look at how it benefited him. Being exposed to the different issues going on in different places of the world, Elon knew how to create products in tech, aerospace travel, and renewable energy that has never been seen before, and was not only wanted, but he knew was needed on a global scale. And in turn, he completely shifted the industries that he had impacted. Similarly, Barack Obama's cross-cultural upbringing is a shining example of leveraging your diverse experiences for leadership. Growing up with a Kenyan father and an American mother, he was raised in Hawaii and Indonesia. Now, after only spending 4 years of his childhood in Indonesia with his stepfather, not only did he become fluent in Indonesia's national language, Bahasa, but he also, in his words, gained a hard-headed assessment of how the world works. He was not limited to only one set of traditions, one set of norms, or one set of ideas. He was able to see the different perspectives going on in different places of the world. Now, in his growth to presidency, this likely allowed him to look at global issues through a diverse lens, thinking of solutions that not only benefited the US, but also recognized how it could impact other countries. Moreover, he gained credibility, showing that he was knowledgeable about different cultures, and he gained respect from the peers in his line of work. Now, from Musk, Obama, and others like them, us third culture kids can take great inspiration. We need to think about how we can do as they did and incorporate our skills as being a third culture kid into our careers. Whether it is tech, politics, or any other, we know that we can bring innovative and new ideas that are inclusive and make a memorable impact on the world. Now, for any of you who may feel isolated or like they can't find a sense of identity, there are ways to help yourself. Embark on a journey of self-education. Watch documentaries, read literature, find online sources about the places that you've lived in. This way, you will not only gain a deeper understanding of the history, but you will also understand how it affects you and how it includes you. Another thing you can do to strengthen your own sense of identity is find your interests. What hobbies can you pursue that will make you know who you are? Whether it's sports, music, art, science, you can find communities of people like you who enjoy this. And in places that you might not find a sense of identity, you can find it in these hobbies. Lastly, you need to acknowledge the privilege of being in the UAE. Being surrounded by third culture kids, whenever we may feel alone or isolated, we can go to our peers, go to our friends, and talk about it. Share how we feel and share advice to each other. This way, we create our own sense of belonging in our own cultural identity that we've created as third culture kids. Now, finally, I want to leave you with one last thought. Are you going to look at being a third culture kid as a disadvantage or an advantage? And how will you better yourself? Thank you.